Okay, very good evening to everyone who has joined us or will be joining us on our very first seminar for this year, 2025. In that vein, I would just want to take the opportunity to wish us a happy new year. It's not so new anymore, but all the best for 2025. If all your plans, with all the plans that I know we normally have for the new year, I trust that God will bless all your plans and prosper all your activities for this year. We have, in that vein, launched again or redone the mental and spiritual wellness calendar for this year. With the same, great tips for mental and spiritual well-being. We will be posting this on our Facebook page subsequently, and we'll try to get a few hard copies out as well. But very, very useful tips that will take us through the year from month to month. There's a theme for each month, and for January the theme is Renew Your Mind. Renew your mind. All right, so to kick us off this year, our very first topic, a very topical one, a relevant one in the times that we have come to live in. We are, as we speak, streaming on YouTube and Facebook as well. And that in itself, says that we are not anti-technology, all right? So, but we are tackling today the topic hooked online. Hooked online. Trying to address the challenges of internet and social media addiction. It's a very, very pressing topic. It's not a new one, but it has become the subject of much research and much concern, across the board in our society, across the world, right? So we're going to be trying to tackle this topic. So it's not something that you can easily address in one session, but we're going to see how best we can do that with the aid of our guest today. We have with us on our panel, to my immediate right, first of all, we have Miss Joanne Haynes. She is a professional and school guidance counselor, and she's also the founder and the executive director of Philida, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Empowerment Center International. That's based in Glen, here in St. Vincent. And so she's our first time with us. Hopefully not the last time, but very happy to have her consenting to be with us this evening. Next to her, we have Pastor Jamel Providence. He is the pastor of the North Leeward district of Seventh-day Adventists, and someone who, takes advantage of social media quite well. Right? I know he has a personal interest in this area, and he's a youth pastor. Well, you can tell based on his looks. So he's into the social media scene. And we have, last but definitely not least, one of our return panelists with us here this evening. In this case, I'm privileged to I don't know if this is the first time, but maybe, well, the first time for us. I'm privileged to address her by her new title. Last time she was just Elika Matthews. And we appreciated her being here. She's now Dr. Elika Matthews, psychologist. And so we're very happy. Congratulations, Dr. Matthews, on this great achievement. And we look forward to, continued growth and development in your career and the contribution that we know that you will continue to bring to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the wider, world as well. So there you have it, our panelists for this evening to address this very concerning topic. As we often say, you know, the internet and social media, more specifically, are a very useful tools. Some would say they're a double-edged sword. All right, so the very fact that we are, when we started these seminars last year, January last year, so we're a year in our cycle now, we started off with the intention of going face-to-face, and we did, you know, initially it was just face-to-face. We didn't stream initially. So we did have an audience, at least a face-to-face, in-person audience at first, right? But subsequent to that, we had some challenges, and it was decided that we needed to go use social media and the internet, take advantage of that, because the in-person, you know, for a number of persons, it was difficult to attend in person. You know, that in itself says something about, you know, the pros and cons of technology in our day-to-day lives. You know, some persons feel that, you know, they have been all zoomed out and they prefer face-to-face meetings. Other persons, they you know, if they can avoid being in person at any time, they would go that route. So what does that tell us about how we have evolved, so to speak, as a society, and what are the pros and cons of that? So to kick us off, just want to address this very issue to our panelists. Whoever wants to take this one first. They have devices with us, you know, you might say 24/7, 365. To what extent does this connectedness? I mean, we can say it was supposed to be the intention was good, or is good, all right, to have us be all connected. I actually have a cousin in the UK who I met online before I met her in person, right? So I'm very much, you know, appreciative of the power of social media, the internet to connect us, right? But in what ways could this become a problem? What may be some of the downsides of this connectedness?
As you stated, there's a positive and a negative side. You listed a positive, which is that it connects you with family, friends that you wouldn't have otherwise known existed, or you wouldn't have otherwise been able to communicate regularly. The downside of being connected, it can come in a lot of different forms. So having access to so much information, one, it can lead to burnout. Having constant access to information on specific things can burn you out, because it provides you with information in a large capacity. And if you don't use it in moderation, then it can affect you. It can lead to depression. A tendency now is for persons to compare themselves. So we're online, social media, we're scrolling through TikTok, we're scrolling through Instagram, we're scrolling through Facebook, and we're seeing everything that's happening with other people. And this has now put people in a space where they're now measuring themselves based on what other people are doing. So you see the person you would have went to school with, they're now married, or they now have children, or they just bought their first home, their first vehicle, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, I'm not there as yet, and that is affecting you internally. Sleep deprivation. We're on the internet and we're scrolling, and before you turn around, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know you have to get up for 6 o'clock. And you're just continually going. And it can strain your relationships as well, because for as much as it brings you together, it can cause some level of disconnect. Because if you're in a relationship and the two of you are in person, you're on your phone, they're on their phone, that is a disconnect between both of you as well.
All right, anyone wants to add there? Thanks for that.
Yeah, let me just chip in. First, let me say good evening and thanks for having me here. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. Just want to add to what you would have said, and again, we are agreeing. I mean, social media, the internet, it's a powerful tool. It's necessary. We need it. However, another downside to that, because the question is about jobs, and depending on your job, you might have to be connected, right? Just want to touch on that side. It can create a blur between your personal life and your professional life.
Work-life balance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's true.
because for some companies, some workplaces, they give you work devices, your phone, computer, and you will go home, but you still have to work because you're so connected, right? So you're getting phone calls 8 o'clock in the night, 9 o'clock in the night. You know you're supposed to be spending time with your family, right? And you just can't find that bridge, how to separate yourself, how to find that balance. So you find yourself getting up late in the night, checking emails, checking your work phone, you know, you
Or your WhatsApp group.
your WhatsApp chat. And so that thin line between your personal life and your professional life gets so blurred that sometimes it's hard for you to actually differentiate or even switch back. When you're supposed to be at home with your family and your friends, you're still carrying over your professional work life, and that can create some serious problems.
Yes, definitely. I experienced that when I was in a work chat group once, and I had to protest. Where a person is putting, messages at this ungodly hour of the
Yeah. Some
night.
some people just don't know how to
The
just
boundaries,
switch off. How to create
yeah.
that boundaries. I guess later on, we can even dive into that a little bit deeper. So we really have to learn how to create that balance, and know when to control ourselves, even using the good ICT, social media, technology devices.
Yeah. Anything to add, Joe?
I will just emphasize 2 points. These were the points that I highlighted. The breakdown in relationships that was mentioned by Dr. Matthews, and not having the work-life balance, and being able to set boundaries. And that sometimes would be the cause for the breakdown in relationships, whether it's family, friends, and even self-care. Because like Dr. Matthews mentioned, the burnout, if a person is not able to set boundaries when it comes to the amount of screen time and have that balance, you're going to find that your mental health will deteriorate, your physical health will deteriorate, your spiritual health will deteriorate, your social interaction will deteriorate, and before you know it, you'll be no good for yourself, much less the work or anybody else. And so it's very important that we pay attention to these things when we are using ICT.
Thanks for that again. I came across a talk. I think it was a TED talk by Dr. Kimberly Young, late Kimberly Young, we just found out, in which she's one of the first persons to, I don't know if she coined the term, but she started research early into this this was like mid-1990s, right? Started research this phenomenon of internet addiction. One of the cases that she pointed out was that a friend of hers husband, this was in the days of what do you call this, I forgot the internet service, but her husband got addicted to this internet service, and he got into chat groups, and it started to put a strain on the relationship, because it was, apart from the financial aspect of it, because he had to pay for the service, he was getting into these chat groups with other women. Eventually, it led to a divorce, all right? So she documented that, and she said, this thing has had, a lot of negative effects. I know of at least one case in St. Vincent, personally, where that was a factor, internet usage, and, really led to a breakup. So it says this technology was intended for connection, right? To make us more connected as a society, as people, as groups. But there's another side to it, in that you also hear that the technology, rather than make us more connected, it can make us disconnected. Well, how does that happen? How does something that is intended to make us more connected make us less sociable or less connected?
The reason is because when you are using ICT, you are mainly communicating via texting screen, right? And that is very impersonal. Now, I personally believe that we were created for interaction and touch, face to face. When we first learned about communication and we talked about communication skills like active listening involves paying attention to the person you're listening to, looking them squarely in the faces and leaning forward and, the nods and all the different things that let the person know that, hey, I'm with you. When you are texting or you are talking on the phone or even, the social media and all of these things, you don't get that in-person connection. And what I find happens is that there is a breakdown in even simple soft skills or social skills. And that's where, the whole aspect of not being sociable. So you would find in one house, you have a person in one room and another person in another room. And this actually happened to me when I was studying in Barbados, when my niece and I shared an apartment. And she's in her room studying, and I am in my room studying, and she would text me a message, and I would text her back a message. And then I had to be intentional about sitting down and having a conversation. Because what I find, especially with the young people and the children I deal with now, they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to empathize. They don't know how to express themselves. And another reason is because of the shorthand that you use. So you find also a breakdown in the use of English. Right? They use the emojis. You ask, how are you? And you put a thumbs up. What does that mean? Yes. So even simple forming sentences, and we are in an education system where you are expected to do every single subject has some aspect of the use of English in it, even mathematics. And our children and young people are struggling, and even some adults. And I am still yet to catch up with the emojis and the shorthand, the LOLs, and all of these. Sometimes I have to ask, what does that mean?
Yeah,
and then you have to type out
one
the
other
whole
day too,
thing, right? So that is how it makes us. Another thing is that when I was much younger, moonlight nights, we would go out in the yard and we would play ring games and you clap hands, or as youth ministries, we go to the beach and we have a cookout. But the young people, they're in the houses with their devices. They don't want to leave. You said, hey, let's go for a walk. No. And they become, just glued and connected and just the devices and they're brilliant, they're intelligent. They can use the technology very well. Wow. And that's a plus. But then there isn't the ability to really be with someone and build meaningful and lasting relationships because they don't know how to interact and how to communicate.
It's almost like the what we call it, have some kind of withdrawal. Yeah. which
and that happens with addiction.
Substance of, right.
That happens with addiction.
Yeah, you can't be without the phone for too long. And any other?
If I might just add to join, I have an elder who said to me one time that nowadays he realized that the technology is using us rather than we are using the technology. I will never forget that. I'll never forget that because it's so deep, all right, that I think the major problem that we are facing as a people with technology and social media has to do with the misuse of it. It's not a bad thing, but like alcohol and whatever substance, the misuse of it and the lack of knowledge and being able to create that discipline in your individual self that allows you to be lured into overuse of the technology. Another thing that, just to add what Ms. Sains was saying, I think also it can cause a breakdown of culture and tradition. So no longer you see the little children learning about stargazing. Can't find them outside doing stargazing. I can't tell the last time I see some children outside pitching marbles and rolling down with a bucket cover down there. I can't see them thing again. But you know for sure you could find them
Homemade
inside.
toys and,
Yeah,
those
you
things.
can't
Yeah.
find them thing making cars out of those bottles again, and yeah, you're not seeing them thing. And so the joy of childhood and growing up and being able to be outside with your friends. Right now I live in a neighborhood. If you see the boys outside, it had to be because current gone or internet not on. But book it on
Wi-Fi,
show.
no Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Once you don't have a Wi-Fi, you find them outside. But once there's internet, once there's electricity, everybody glued in their houses. And I think that is causing some serious challenges, especially with communication among our people. No longer are we able to express ourselves anymore. Because as was being said, the different shorthand writings and emojis, you send them to express your different emotions, what you're feeling. Hopefully that your receiver understands what those emojis actually mean. And sometimes some of them not even so clear, right? That you can't even interpret them properly. Sometimes and the way you text, sometimes you might be sending a message and you might be sending it with a particular emotion. But because already the misinterpretation of such, your receiver might receive it how they choose to interpret or depending how they read your message. And then that could cause serious problems too. It has a lot of problems coming out of it. And then finally it erases the physical presence, and that is very important, of someone being there with you, to actually feel them and to know that they're there. Sometimes you don't really need persons to be there to talk to you, but just them being by your side, just saying, I'm here in the present, with you, can really help a lot in terms of dealing with challenges and give reassurance and that kind of stuff. And by the use of the internet and communication devices, it really takes away that feeling of comfort that you can get.
Thanks for that. Have anything? Okay, right. So, Dr. Young gives an interesting example in this talk that she gave, where somebody is playing a game called Second Life. I've never played it. It's like one of these simulation kind of games where you have an avatar. You pretend to be somebody else in this game. Whatever you want to be, you can be that person. So this lady, she's in real life. She's a legal secretary, right? In the Second Life game, she was I think it's a baroness, very important, figure, rich, very very rich person. Now it wouldn't be so bad if that was it, but what it led to was that she ended up embezzling from her company almost $500,000 to support her Second Life, her internet persona, right? And I said, wow, that's so real that somebody could actually be that, invested or possessed, the right word, but so involved in this, so caught up in this thing that they would go to that extreme, So it raises a question. It goes to our next question. Is there, apart from that example, is this a real issue? How much research or scientific research do we have now? I mean, it's been 30 years since Dr. Young's book. Does the research really bear out that we have an issue with this internet addiction?
So studies have shown, it has been done, that online addiction, it mimics that of drug use. addiction. So they study the brain, the gray matter in the brain, and they identify that it's similar. Those who have online addiction, it's similar to that of persons who have drug addiction as well.
That's very disturbing.
Yeah.
makes me, you know, one of the things that also came up is, and people ask this question, how much online time is too much, right? Honestly, I don't really track personally my online time. Sometimes I feel I'm online too much. Other times I feel like I need to be online more, depending on what I'm doing with it. So, and Dr. Young does make the point that it's not really about the amount of time. It's about what the quality of the time, or what exactly it is that you're doing online. Because she talks about persons getting involved with, like, gamers, people who will play games and be online for, you know, some people actually make money playing games online, you know, so I don't want to knock them too. All the gamers out there who might be watching.
That's a job.
But even then, you still have to be, you know, moderate, I suppose. But there's also the issue of gambling. And I think she also mentions pornography as well. So the nature of the activity, I guess, would play somewhat in, you know, the danger of your online activity, right?
Yeah, activity, I think, would play a significant role, and your age as well. Obviously, we're going to all be online for a amount of different reasons. The amount of time I spend online as opposed to how much a child spends online should be significantly different. Because something we have to be concerned as well, studies have proven that online time, too much online time, have led to deficits in children as it relates to their attention span. They find that children are unable, and you'd think it'd be different because they would sit on an iPad for hours. So you think, okay, they'd be able to sit still and study their book and stuff like that, but that has now created a deficit where they're unable to sit still and read physical books because they have this screen time where you can either fast forward or move forward or do something different or move from one topic to the next topic to the next topic. So now you're finding it difficult to get a child to sit down and focus on this one topic or this one thing that they're studying.
And if I may add, the amount of time that the children spend on social media also impacts on their emotional well-being. You find anxiety, and the studies have shown this, that mental health challenges in terms of, and Dr. Matthews mentioned the depression before, and the research has shown also that anxiety. And so not just the children, but also the youths, the online pressure to be like everybody else. I would be in a session, in a class, and all the young people are on their phones. Even in the secondary situation, the teenagers, they are on their phones.
While
and you
you're
would tell
teaching?
them, yes, and you will tell them, the moment there is a pause, you take the phone out. You say to them, okay, we are not using your devices, so you need to put them away. They will put them in their laps or just under their bags, or the book is over it, and the moment there is a pause, you turn around and the phones are out, right? And so there is this anxiousness to see, check my messages, who commented on what I just posted, did somebody like my picture, and all of these. And so they're not even aware how much stress and anxiety they are under to perform and to meet the trends that are out there when it comes to ICT and the social media and all of that. So it is indeed a good thing in that it helps us to connect and with communication and with education, further education and all of that. But the way our brains work, and like Dr. Matthews explained about, the impact on, the chemicals in the brain for a certain addiction. When you taste something and you have that feel-good experience or that, that euphoric experience, you always want it. So they would always go for it, and that will be the driving force, is how it makes them feel in the moment.
But just permit me to just step in here with two points, all right? You talk about the effects you have in school. I can tell you the effects I have in church. I mean, you will be up there trying to preach your heart out for Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And you see people down there in the back, head deep in the phone scrolling. Like, I don't know what.
They're looking up the text on the
Yeah,
phone.
sure. Yeah, so
They're
not
making
only
notes.
yeah, so not only does it affect the learning experience for children, but it also really affects us as ministers, as person. It has a spiritual impact as well, because oftentimes people tend to say, okay, I have the Bible on my phone and whatever, and that's not a bad thing, because I do have the Bible on my phone and whatever. But you take up the Bible you take up your phone to read your Bible. That's a devotion time. But during devotion time, notification on, right? Notification on. So something's, and it takes away from, because no longer are you now focused on reading the word and digesting what you can get from the word, but that ping, and it might just be a nice juicy story you was in last night. So you get up and you fall asleep because of the juicy before the juicy story end, and you wake up and with great anticipation just to read what that message is, and read it can really and truly distract you. And we're talking about the psychological effects and stuff like that, but I want to draw our attention a little bit to the physical effect that it can have. All right, too much of social media time, screen time, can lead to sedentary lifestyle, and research have shown that there is a significant association between excessive internet use and physical inactivity that can contribute to obesity, can contribute to cardiovascular problems, also with poor physical fitness, because on your device, you're in a relaxed position. Could be in a position for so long, and you're lying down and you cock up your foot somewhere and whatever. It damages your back, your spine, your posture. You understand me? So these are some physical effects that come with it. Also, it can definitely damage your eyes.
That's true.
Yeah. And it can contribute to headache. And it can affect your sleep pattern. And with all of that, it can just affect your quality of your life, your productivity. So you spend so much time in the night, in the dark, damaging your eyes, and then you find it hard to get up in the morning to be productive. You get up and all you could be thinking about during the day, sleep. You're so tired, you can't function, and it affects your productivity. You can't even get up to exercise because you're so tired, and you just get into this lazy state that it's just difficult. So it really has physical health impact as well too.
I know of at least a couple of cases. I mean, the practitioners are here in St. Vincent, where a person gets so hooked, as the topic, as the title of the program is, so hooked on, but it's, in most cases, it's video games, and in some cases, it's video games. But it could be other things, right? To the extent that that persons need actual counseling. How do you get to that point? That, you're so caught up with this in the virtual world that you now need to need an intervention. Right? How serious a problem is it? I mean, you mentioned, in the classroom and the children, being distracted and so on. But most of them would not progress to the extreme, right? So how do you prevent, I think Dr. Young used the term screen. How do you screen then to figure out, okay, this child might be more susceptible to, getting into a serious addiction situation, all right? How do you prevent going from here to there? That's the question.
Okay, so for some persons, you might start to see some level of withdrawal symptoms. So you take away the screen time and you might find children getting upset, crying, becoming very aggressive with persons, just unable to function unless they have access to that digital media. So that's something that you have to pay attention to, how that person responds when they do not have access to online. If you find it hindering their day-to-day activities, so they get up in the morning, they have to be on social media, they have to be online, or they're telling you, I can't do my homework unless I look it up online, when you have the physical book right there. So things like these are things that we have to pay attention to, making sure that you identify, is this online activity or the need to be online hindering their daily functioning? And that's something to pay attention to with any type of addiction. How is their need or want to have this and do this hindering their day-to-day activities? And is it getting worse over time? Is it improving? If you make changes, is that making it better or is it still going downhill?
Okay. Yeah.
And if I might add, you asked, how do you avoid that, getting to that stage? And I believe that when it comes to children and teenagers, that structure is important. It's necessary. So when I deal with parents who talk about they can't deal with the children because all they want to do is to be on device, I let them know as parents, then if your children don't have structure, then you need to now go and provide structure for them. So what does structure look like? And how much time do you allow? And so parents have to take up some responsibilities too in terms of how they provide or how they raise the children. For some, it's okay to just leave the children with the devices because they're tired, they have a lot of work to do, they have to wash, they have to do everything, especially if you're a single parent. So the devices raise the children or they babysit them, right? And not that they want it, but sometimes they will tell you, I can't help it. But even so, they still need to make an effort to, if it is that you have to take away the device and hide it, put it away where the children can't reach it. Because what I have realized, even in my own household, the little 8-year-old, when his mom is sleeping, he will get up. So when she thinks he has fallen asleep, he gets up and he's on the device in the dark.
A way to beat the system.
8 years old. Or, yes, right. Or he will tell you, oh, I am playing an educational game, or I am doing something with science, or I am watching Superbook, or I am, right? To justify why he needs to have the device. So I'm doing something productive and I'm learning something here. Even so, we still have to let them know it is important that you read a physical book, or you play a game, or you do a puzzle, or you do something else that helps to stimulate your brain and help to give some, physical activity and movement when it comes to those things. When you're dealing with adults now, because adults too are addicted, what I have done for me, because I found that I was becoming addicted some years ago, especially when Facebook had just come in and you had the Farmville, the game thing. I used to be on that like 24/7. You can't wait because you're doing your farm and you want to, I had to set boundaries. So I turn my phone off at nights. I let people who are close to me know, okay, if there is an emergency, what we will do in these situations. But for my mental health's sake and for my peace of mind, I don't look at my phones first thing in the morning, and I turn my phones off when I'm going to bed. I check my phones when I get in my office. If it is that I can respond to certain messages, I do. And I limit my screen time intentionally. And I refuse to have any social media apps on my phones. So I check my emails when I turn on my computer, and that works for me, right?
Yeah.
It works for me because I am intentional about spending quality time doing more productive things.
I commend you.
And so we have to, know what works for us.
I commend you on that because my older daughter, she actually was, strong enough to do that when she was at college. And she realized, this thing was getting out of hand for her. And she came off Facebook. So she was, not just didn't have it on her phone, but just took herself off Facebook because she felt that she needed to focus on studies. And it worked out for her. It did very well. When I came across this thing, I said, in 2014, they had the first international conference on internet addiction disorders, right? And I said, whoa, I never heard of any such thing. And I think they had many countries represented, right? And it says to us that this thing is a serious thing. It's we might smile about it, and some of it is kind of comical too. But it says that, collectively we're having a significant problem that we need to address. So a number of interventions that need to be made. But before we come to that, I noted there was a case, I forget exactly when it was reported, but this now happened in the age of AI. So we're now in the AI era. Right, and there was a very sad story of a young man who fell in love with an AI chatbot, and he, they were having. Obviously, this was unknown to his parents, and it got so far that he ended up. Well, the chatbot said to him, if he wanted to be with her. Then he could, but of course he would have had to, end his life to do that, which he did, sadly. Committed suicide because somehow he convinced himself, or he was convinced by AI, that, if he did this, then he would be with the love of his life, a chatbot. And I said, whoa. Of course, you ask yourself, where were his parents in this whole scenario? It goes back to what you said about, structure. Parents, really monitoring and monitoring the children, depending on the age too, but really not just monitoring your children, but having a relationship with them as well. That, if something like that is happening, then, you would think that as a parent, your child would be open enough to come to you and express what is going on, that they would. Something in the real world is so deficient relationally that they felt that, that is being met by a chatbot. Some deficit there. What does this story say to us about, again, how serious this issue is, and how does AI feature in this whole social media addiction? Is it only a problem, or is AI potentially part of the solution? Maybe, I don't know.
So I think it can be both problem and solution. As you know, there's a good and a bad side to every single thing. But a story like this teaches us so much. So like as noted before, humans are social beings. And if it is that we can't get that interpersonal connection with the persons around us, then we tend to go out into the world and look for it. There can be so many intervening factors that can cause people to go down that route. It can be maybe they're not getting what they need at home, or it could be they went to school and they've been bullied by persons, so they don't know how to have that level of connection with other people. As such, they sort it out elsewhere, which is online. And that can be part of the problem. People crave that emotional attachment, and when they can't get it in particular social situations, then they move to other places, which is why it's so important to teach online literacy, especially to young persons. So they're able to decipher, okay, these are the things that are real, these are the things that are important, and these are the things that you should pay attention to, because conversations can help these things. It can help to shed light, but also it can help you to understand something is happening with my child that requires further intervention. Because it may not just be he fell in love with an AI robot. There can be other mental health factors that are involved in this situation that requires treatment as well. So it's very important to teach that online literacy to young people, to let them know this is what's important, this is what is happening, these are the things that you look out for, but equally being able to tell, okay, there is something wrong with my child, that they're not having that level of emotional connection outside of that screen.
Okay.
Yes, if I may add, a thought that just crossed my mind as you mentioned that not only the online literacy, which is very important, and I had noted that for questions that would come after, but also emotional intelligence. You see, because when they express themselves with these emojis, you know, you give a thumbs up or you have a smiley face, or the smiley face might have a tear or different things, and you ask them, you know, how do you feel, or how does this make you feel? And there is no communication or no connection, as you talked about, with a parent or even an older sibling or a pastor or someone you can share with and say, but this really makes me feel good. I feel happy because I don't feel like this when I'm at home. And you explore that some more to get to understand what's going on with that person. And so we need to teach our young people how to regulate their emotions, to first and foremost be able to understand and identify the emotions that they are encountering and how they regulate those when they're dealing not only with face-to-face relationships, but even on ICT. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Some very good points there to note. So, let's try to talk some solutions. I mean, we've been giving solutions along the way, but let's see if we can focus a bit more. I mean, the symptoms or the effects are so broad. As Dr. Matthews said, you know, depending on the particular situation, you may need a counselor's intervention, refer the individual to see a counselor, and we always recommend that. We've been highlighting that since last year, depending on the particular issue. It's just interesting that the book that Dr. Young wrote, the first book that she wrote on this was called Caught in the Net in 1995, I think it was. All right, so this is not a new thing, but with the progress of technology and now the advent of AI, I feel like, you know, this thing is compounding, you know, in a way that, you know, children who are now, I mean, at kindergarten stage right now, they are so immersed in this digital world that it is. How do you even begin to talk about things like the term was it digital detox when their whole life is just one immersion in a digital world. But practically, how do you actually maybe detox might not be the word, but how do you? It's not toxic for everybody to the same degree, I suppose. Depends on, again, what is your online, the nature of your online activity. But there's a different term. I think she also used the term a digital diet. All right, so she looks at it in a similar way that you look at food. All right, so if you have a food addiction or if you're not eating healthy food, how do you get yourself back on track to eating healthily? You know, so think of that, using that analogy now in terms of our digital consumption. Put it that way.
All right, so if I might start on this one, and I will take our minds to the spiritual side of this answer, because I believe that in all things that we are discussing and sharing, that there is still the spiritual impact and the spiritual solution to these problems. All right, you're talking about digital detoxing and being able to just create that balance or control. As I said earlier, the whole challenge with becoming addicted to social media or for anything of that matter is discipline. Yes. Right? And one of the prime ways that we can become more disciplined is through prayer and fasting. Mm-hmm. Setting aside that quality time for prayer and fasting. Because most people, when they hear fasting, it's like an obscene language to them. Huh? It's like a total foreign language. You understand?
Well, are people getting into like intermittent fasting now for health?
For health reasons.
Yeah.
Right?
Not necessarily spiritual.
But it has much more to do than just, it has its health benefits. But ultimately, prayer and fasting is a discipline. It's being able to deny yourself from whatever you like so that you can have that quality time to spend with God to develop yourself, to develop your relationship with God, ultimately which will help in your morality, help in your decision making, and be able to help with you as to become a holistic being.
Right.
Because
the right choices.
Yeah, it helps with because at the end of the day we have to realize that the great battle is for the mind. Is for to control the enemy wants to control us. All right? And through prayer and fasting, it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, I am going to give God charge over my life, ultimately. So through prayer, you receive the power to overcome. And through fasting, you get the discipline to when the challenges come that you want to spend time on your devices, it helps you with being disciplined to set those boundaries, those clear goals that you want. You can decide now, because if you can't, as was said by Sister White, if you can't control your diet, you really and truly can't control any other part of you. All right? And fasting helps with that as well too. It helps you control and helps you to set aside time that you would normally take to do anything else, so you can spend that time in personal growth and development and in communication with God. So once you allow God to help you in that, you seek His help in all of that, then He can be able to help to transform your mind, to give you whatever you need so that you can be able to set those boundaries to know the impact that these things are impacting you. It can help you now to determine, hey, I want a better physical health for myself. I want better mental health. And through that, I can be able to now say, okay, after 10 o'clock, no phone time. Yeah, that's something I do. I mean, after my phone goes automatically on D&D, do not disturb. 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, because I get up at 5, do my devotion, whatever, start my day, start getting ready at 6. So calls, messages, anything, don't come in until 6, because I don't want to be sleeping and then my phone rings. So, I mean, you have to set up structure in place to protect your mental health, to protect your relationships, because these things affect your relationship. And in all of these things, we are talking about it affecting social interaction and persons being able to communicate with others, but it affects your prayer life too. It really does. It takes away the time and your attention. Because oftentimes when people hear devotion or time to pray, it's when they get the most excuse. Time, they don't feel like, or they fall asleep during prayer. And it really affects not only your social, but your spiritual life as well. And in order to take back control of that, you have to allow God to do that change in your life. So I would say to start, to develop that discipline and to be able to discern that I have a problem. Because most people don't like to admit they have a problem. They like to think that it's okay for them to be on their devices. It's okay for them to live the life they want. So unless you have that discernment to know that this is a problem, you will never want to try and solve it. And somebody might come and identify the problem for you, and you might think that this person is being negative, this person is against, and whatever. But you don't have that spiritual discernment to know, hey, this is not only affecting your physical life, your social life, your mental health, but it's also affecting your spiritual life. And once that wall is broken down, your spiritual wall is broken down, then it gives room for any other thing to come into your life.
Very good.
If I may just add, any form of addiction that we experience really gratifies our flesh. You know, it is that gratification that we seek, and so you continue doing this thing because it brings you some kind of pleasure, whether you are aware of it or not. And that has to do with our flesh, right? So when you talk about the praying and fasting to be able to detox, when I looked at that digital detoxing, the concept that really came to me also was the whole concept of praying and fasting. I didn't look at it as, you know, there is something toxic about it, but that there's something that you need to separate from for a moment or for a season so that you can reset or put some things in place to help you to control it when you do get back to it. Because the truth of the matter is we are living in a digital age. And it's going to continue to be this and even more advanced as the years progress. And AI is here to stay and to advance. So it is not something that we can say, oh, we need to get rid of, or we need to tell the young people and the children that they should not be a part of. It is going to be a part of our lives. But like you said, how do we prevent us getting to that place of addiction? Is that we deal with the flesh and we kill the flesh. And I want to agree with Pastor Providence that we pray and we fast. But then how do we get our children to be involved in this? We model it for them. I have a friend, she has twin daughters, and she was at church one day and the pastor was preaching on prayer and fasting, and he mentioned that fasting kills the flesh. And he challenged the church. And she said to me that her 14-year-old said, Mommy, I'm going to go on 3 days total fast. And she was concerned. The mother was concerned because the child had not fasted like that before. But the child was intentional about it. Yes. So she just had liquids. And she made it. Right? So when we have young people like these, we teach them how to influence their peers. So I really believe in modeling, teaching, and modeling. And we need to let our young people and our children know, because the children are not too small. If they are not too small for the enemy to influence their minds and cause them to be addicted by bringing certain things, bombarding them with all of these stimuli that come to them and make them feel that they can't do without this, then we can teach them that, hey, this thing will affect you in a particular way, and this is how you balance this. And so we really need to kill the things that gratify the flesh and magnify or increase the things that help us to be on a better place spiritually and mentally and emotionally.
And just to add to that, I think it's important to get in front of it. So it does not necessarily have to be a problem for us to recognize we need to limit ourselves when it comes to online usage. So ask yourself, how can I challenge myself to have healthy online habits before this turns into a potential problem? So something I try to do every year, 40 days, 40 nights, I delete social media. I would like to delete online usage, but I don't think the workplace would appreciate not being able to get me. But deleting social media and seeing how much time you put into other things making sure you're reading, you're exercising, you're praying, you're fasting, you're spending time with family members. So challenge yourself to limit how much time you spend on social media. Pastor noted it. His phone goes off at 10 o'clock, comes back on at 6. My phone, same thing. And you can set these for your children, for yourself. Make sure that their devices turn off at a particular time. And many parents, if you monitor, you have that app that you can switch off your child's device at a particular hour. So doing things like that. Also, being mindful. We in church, it's an annoy, I hate to see it. We in church and people on their phone and they're scrolling and they're going, and yes, I understand your Bible app, everything is on your phone. But let's go back to the olden days, picking up the physical book. Like me, I do not take my phone to church. You cannot reach me at that hour. This is the Lord's time, right? So I don't take my phone. So limiting that as well, deciding I am at church and I'm going to be present at church. Because you know, to the point, yes, we might be focused, but then the notification comes in and now we're distracted by what is happening. So being able to limit yourself and teach yourself discipline before it turns into an issue as well.
Thanks. So very good points there. As Pastor started with the prayer and fasting, that's a term that's actually used. Well, I've heard it used in relation to people talk about a digital fast. They'll say not in the sense of abstaining from food, but abstaining from your device, right? And as you just said, challenging yourself to do it. And Dr. Young, one of her recommendations, she talks about a 48-hour digital detox. I guess that depends on how deep a person is in this addiction. But as I said, for all of us, at some point we need to challenge ourselves and say, okay, I'm going to step back from this for a bit and just see, the pros and cons, how you react to it yourself, psychologically, emotionally, and so on. And one of the issues that she points out as well is that while you're doing that, figure out how well you do with being by yourself with your own thoughts. For some people, part of the issue with the addiction, the social media internet addiction, is some persons find it difficult to be still by themselves with their own thoughts. I don't know. How do you deal with somebody who has that difficulty, right? I mean, you would think, well, not everybody. I guess it depends how introvert or extrovert you are. But some person just find it difficult to be still and be quiet. How do you address that?
Well, like you said, it depends on the person's personality, right? I am an introvert. I can be by myself with my thoughts forever and not have people around me. But there are some people who are extroverts and they need to have that interaction and all of that. But what I will do is to let them set small goals and start with that. So instead of trying to, have big bites or big chunks, like, okay, today I'm going to stay all day by myself. He said, okay, maybe every day I can start with 1 hour by myself. If that's what the person can manage and you see how that works. And I like to encourage people to journal. So you are alone with your own thoughts. Journal, write down, how did that make you feel? Or what did you encounter in that moment? And use that as a scale, a self-rating scale or something to track how you progress with this. And so, okay, maybe next week I can try 2 hours. It's the same like when somebody is getting over some kind of a substance addiction. You don't tell them, okay, stop smoking marijuana altogether or stop drinking alcohol altogether. You kind of wean yourself off it. I will take the same approach where, you kind of just ease yourself into this. And when you practice something long enough, it becomes a habit. So the more you practice it, and that's one of the methods in which we learn by repetition and by practicing, and you go it over and over and over. And so the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And when you identify certain things that you feel or you can do, or that helps you to grow and mature in your personality or in your personal development and all of that, during these alone time, you find that, and you trust God. In these times, you have some reflections and some prayer time, and you learn how God speaks to you, and you are guided and all of that. You're going to find that eventually it becomes a habit, and eventually it becomes something that is easier for you, to the point where you might just love spending time with yourself, with your own thoughts after a while.
Yeah,
That
it's
goes straight
important.
to my point. Create a life that you're happy with. Oftentimes we're by ourselves and we're just there, idle, nothing to do. And as we know, the devil finds work for idle hands. So create a life that you're happy with and one that is engaging. As opposed to just sitting online, sitting on social media, figure out what are some things that I can add to my life. And if you truly like engaging on social media, find a way that it can be meaningful. So is it that I can start a hobby, start a business, an awareness page where I can speak to people through this online usage, create something that is meaningful to your online usage as opposed to just being there, but also create a life outside of that. Go out and get some exercise, get some fresh air. Let the sunshine hit your skin. A lot of people, they're inside, they don't know what to, as we noted, children not outside running up and down anymore. They're in the house. Go outside, teach them a game that you play outside, some round dodge, some hopscotch, something. Just these small little things, and they add up. It's not going to be that one thing that I do all the time, but what are little things that I can incorporate into my life to make it bigger, better, holistic?
Yeah, do some gardening.
Yeah,
back to
definitely.
the
Make
land.
some food, because prices right now in the market really high. But I want, have you ever heard about the term digital sabbatical?
I have an idea. No, but I could have an idea what I
Yeah, right. So you've heard about sabbatical,
same.
right? So just doing it in a digital context. So it's basically the concept of like taking like a weekend break from indulging in heavy social media usage. As we say, you don't have to jump off and say you're not gonna use any at all for one time. But it's allowing yourself to just take some time once in a while, away from this consistent use of social media. And I want to just add that most persons, when they hear the term fasting, they automatically think it's from food. That's a wrong concept. If anybody have been taught that, or if you're still teaching that, stop it right now in Jesus' name. All right? It's not just staying away from food. It's about staying away from the things that negatively impact you also too. Negative thoughts, you can fast from that. You can fast from cursing. You can fast from...
Hopefully permanently.
Well, that's the hope to develop the discipline,
In that case.
the practice. Yeah, you can fast from social media. My wife and I, we engage in a fast every year, every January. We engage in 21 days of prayer and fast. And that really and truly sets us off great for the entire year. We allow for God to just take full control of our lives, to, reset. But this year, God really told me to go big this year. He's like, not just for us personally, but to help others as well. Because normally, over the past 3 years, we have invited other persons to join us, and we share it out and that kind of stuff. And the response has been great. For this year, the Lord told us to go 52 days. And we are starting this Saturday, February 1, and it's going to take us right up to March 24. But the theme for this year is rebuilding. So we realize that most persons have allowed their spiritual walls to be broken down, their boundaries to be broken down, their health to be broken down. the relationship with God to be broken down. And God is just saying to us this year, I'm on a journey to help you just rebuild, not just your own personal life, but to help you rebuild others as well too. And I think this is really and truly fitting now that we are talking about this, and we're introducing and we're discussing the benefits of what prayer and fast can do. Because at the end of the day, when we are practice these things, we are rebuilding the good habits and slowly breaking away the bad ones. And we want for us at the end of the day to be holistic individuals. We want to be able to develop new hobbies. During that time, you can develop new hobbies, develop new skills, because the time you take away from spending on the social media, you can actually, as you say, go to the garden, farm, or you can actually take up needle and thread.
No Farmville.
Yeah, no Farmville.
The
No
real-
virtual farming. Do the real thing. You can actually go outside, take up needle and thread. You can realize that you can sew. You can, you can learn so much things. And right now we have a great need for skilled workers. I mean, you can learn carpentry, learn electrical, and you can get out there and be productive. And so, while yes, being on social media and on devices have its pros, it have its necessities, because persons can become really good in operating and fixing devices and that kind of stuff, and that's great. It's not really the social media and the devices itself, as I mentioned earlier. It's how you use them, and what you use them for makes the big difference.
It brings me back to a word that Joanne used twice. Maybe you don't remember this, but I was taking notes. That's my job. Intentionality. All right? I used that word twice, and I noted it. It's something that we have to be very, very intentional about to get the kind of result that we want, and to avoid the pitfalls that we don't want. And as you talked about rebuilding, I'm going to close on this note, and if you want to give any final comments. Dr. Young used the term disconnect to reconnect, right? In the process of that disconnection, digital fast, digital sabbatical, whatever you want to call it, it's about using that time to really focus on what really makes your life a quality one. All right, the relationships that you have with people, most importantly. So when you take yourself away, or take that break from the technology, try to have real conversations with people. Use the example, as you mentioned before, about people being in the same house, or even on a trip. You go on an actual trip with people, an excursion, and people will be on their devices, right? And you wonder, what was the purpose of the trip? To bring us together, or to have us on devices? So, and you mentioned earlier about the deficits in young people having, vocabulary, having conversations with people, reading the deficits. So it has a lot of implications about for social skills, as we touched on. So I want to encourage us, that all of us, those who are viewing and will be subsequently viewing this, to take something very, important away from this, in that we're not knocking social media in its entirety, of course. We have cited the benefits, but we have to have balance, and we have to recognize when a good thing can become, abused or turned into a bad thing, turned into a negative. All right, so that human connection, is our social media usage fostering, better human connection? I might have a little challenge when you mentioned a while ago about journaling, because I do a fair amount of journaling on my phone, right? Because I find it hard to actually write on hard paper, so actually make notes on my phone. So I don't know how I'm gonna try and figure that out.
Discipline yourself to use your phone as though you picked up a notepad and
Right,
you
okay,
journal it
okay.
and then you put it down.
All right, so I have a little...
Right? But that's where your being intentional comes in. So when you're going to do that, you make sure that notifications are off. There are things you can do so you don't get distracted.
Okay, so I keep the
right.
social media aspect. So I'm just using the notepad on the function on the phone. Okay, all right, thanks. All right. Well, doing some handwritten notes as well. I'm trying not to double work myself. Yeah, so any closing thoughts? We will take your closing comments and then we'll call it a wrap for this evening.
As with anything, I encourage persons to do it in moderation. Anything, whether it is food, whether it is your online usage, whether it is your engagement, once done properly and in the correct manner, it will yield results. So figure out ways in which you can make your online usage productive and be able to decipher when it's just mindless scrolling, because that in itself has become a very serious problem where we're just on social media, nothing specific, we're just going. And ask yourself, how can I cut back online to do more in real life? So how can I put this aside and maybe get some exercise, plant some vegetables, engage with family members, and do it because everything needs balance. You don't want to have too much of anything. So you have your online time, you have your family time, you have your work-life balance, and then you have time to rest, recuperate, and center yourself.
Yes, very good. I think she said it all.
Yeah.
So I just wanna just reemphasize my watchword: discipline. I think we should all seek to become disciplined individuals, and with that, it can help us with all the other things that were mentioned: the balance, being responsible, being aware of the challenges when something is coming on. I think if we really seek to become disciplined individuals, our lives will be a much more quality of life.
Thank you.
And I would emphasize being intentional about our pursuit to limit screen time, and a word to the adults: model what you want the children and the young people to do. Because this is not the age where you said, do as I say and not as I do. So you have the mother all the time on her phone watching stuff, and then you tell the child, go to bed, you know? It doesn't make sense. So model it, spend time as families, face to face, together. Go back to the days of reading a Bible story for the child or the children before they go to bed, or just having that conversation. How was your day today? Engage them so that they are not left alone and feeling like the only means of communication is what is so artificial or superficial, that is ICT, but that they can feel what is authentic and real. And while you engage and you reap the benefits of ICT, also learn when it's time to pull back and to have that balance.
Well said. Really enjoyed this conversation this evening. Really want to thank our panelists for gracing us with their presence and sharing with us their insights, based on their knowledge and experience. Very good conversation. I trust that it will be, you will find, our viewers this evening and subsequently will find this informative and inspirational for making some changes where you might need to do so. And as we utilize social media, continue to utilize social media for this program, pray for us that we'll do so in moderation. And persons will indeed benefit from our program going forward. We have a number of plans for this year. You'll hear some more about them as we seek to impact persons positively in terms of improving our mental and spiritual well-being going forward. So thanks for listening this evening. God bless you. And we will be in touch. All the best to you. Take care.